Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily. It's me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, Nick Hausman, joined here as I am every Thursday to get thirsty for some pro wrestling punditry. It is our resident thirst trap, Paul Pratt, a.k.a. Pollo Del Mar. Paul, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
It's good to be back. It's always good to talk a little pro wrestling on a Thursday.
Yeah, and we got a lot of great pro wrestling to talk about. Last night, AEW Winter is Coming, featuring that great opening bout between Hangman Page and Bryan Danielson for the AEW title. We're going to talk about that here in just a moment, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more in the mailbag as we're going to look into the future about who you think could be the next AEW World Champion. No interview here today, so really that's all of the stuff I've got to get out of the way. Paul, should we just get into? Oh, wait, I guess the chat room's open. Engage us, right? If you write things out, I'll bring you onto the screen. That's the only thing I
Absolutely. Engage us in the chat. I did want to start out by saying that we were anxiously awaiting. I was hoping to report news about the QWI Awards where Nick Hausman, Wrestling Inc. Daily, and I were nominated for Podcast of the Year by Outsports.com. And yes, but unfortunately, Brian Bell, who is the mastermind behind that, and the pro wrestling columnist for Outsports, is having some serious computer-related issues. Who can imagine technical issues and technical difficulties derailing somebody's plans? So I guess we're waiting to find out how we did in that category. And I was nominated in 4 other categories, so I'm waiting to see how I do there too. So fingers crossed, y'all. Fingers crossed.
I would love to. And do we get an actual award? Do you know if we win this?
Who knows? He said. I asked what it was going to be like, and he said they were looking at the budget. And I said, "Oh, so children writing our names on sidewalks in colorful chalk. It is,
That would really touch my heart if kids took the time to write it up. Yeah, I'm for it. That's fine. If that's the route we go, that's the route we go. All right, let's get to it. News you can use. News that'll leave a bruise. Last night, AEW Winter is Coming. Pretty fire show. I mean, the first hour was just one long match. We'll start there. Hangman Page retained against Bryan Danielson in a match that went 1 hour to a draw. Very reminiscent of what happened between Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega. What'd you think of this one here, Paul?
I thought it was a great match. It kept people engaged. It was very competitive and well balanced between the two. And I felt like if you're going to have him, because it was problematic to me only in that they kept promoting that this was his first title defense, and he won the belt like a month ago. So, but if you're going to put him right away in against somebody like Bryan Danielson and you do not want him to drop that belt, this is the best possible way to go.
Is it a problem that it's so much like what they did with Kenny, or do you think it's good? How do you feel about that?
There's a couple of ways I view that. Number one, I felt that the purpose of this match in a lot of ways was to really give Hangman Adam Page credibility as a bona fide AEW World Heavyweight Champion. Right. We're looking at the history of this belt. He's the 4th AEW World Champion. 2 of the first 4 are former WWE World Champions, which people widely recognize. The 3rd was Kenny Omega, who people were saying for a decade almost should have gone to WWE and should have been a world champion there. So it was no surprise when Kenny Omega took that belt. Adam Page is their first talent that they have fully elevated through the ranks of AEW and put in this position. So for him to drop that belt right away to Bryan Danielson makes no sense, but to let him go a 1 hour time limit draw and show that he can truly hang with the best in the world for a 1 hour, I think does tremendous things to cement him as a champion that will be memorable. The other thing I thought about this was that, this is reminiscent of what they did with Kenny Omega, except for the fact that Kenny only went to a 30-minute time limit draw. So Page has, the ability to say, well, dude, I went an hour with Bryan Danielson. So it does, again, elevate, Hangman Adam Page. And it also, in a way, continues that rivalry between Omega and Page, because they've both now gone to a draw with Bryan Danielson.
Correct. There's a lot of things that go on here. And so with the draw with Danielson, wrestling logic booking wise, I mean, this doesn't feel done to me. Do you think they run this thing?
Of course not.
Yeah. Do you think this is the main event at Revolution? Do you think they run this for another, through the holidays and into the top of the year?
I think that they certainly could. I also think that it could be set up where somebody else steps in now as the number one contender. Bryan Danielson continues to do whatever he's going to do, and we get a new series of challengers, only to have this sort of like hanging in the backdrop as something that they, it's like having it in their back pocket. They can pull this out at any given time.
All right.
And I do think that it does a tremendous amount to cement Page, because Page needed that. Page needed that credibility. Fans loved him. They were concerned that maybe his time had passed. He came back, he won the belt, and now we were all saying that maybe he needed that first program to go through successfully. Well, what if the first program is this, and then they circle back to it down the road if they choose to?
All right. Well, we're actually going to talk more about this in the mailbag. So we'll revisit this here just a little bit. Another big thing coming out of AEW winter is coming. MJF won the Dynamite Diamond Ring 3rd year in the row. He's the only man to ever win it, and he's done it 3 times. He beat Dante Martin with a little help there from Ricky Starks at the end. Man, he looks so good and strong compared to CM Punk. Like, it's weird. I would think it'd be more equal, or maybe like the Punk would be taking the. I feel like MJF, from a creative standpoint, is, just eating CM Punk's lunch right now.
I absolutely agree. And I think that so much of what MJF had to say last night on Dynamite about, becoming a contender through a series of lackluster matches against non-challengers and, regurgitating some BS during his promos should not make him a contender. And I agree with that. I think that MJF absolutely looks like the superstar in this competition. And bless his heart, CM Punk is not living up to whatever the hype was.
It is bizarre to me. Like, it does. It feels like there's just something. And MJF, he's saying the truth when he goes out and does media and stuff. He's right now. He's like, there's just something. He's not CM Punk from 10 years ago. There's something that's not there. I'm trying to figure out how to light that fire and bring it out of him right now, and really kind of throwing everything at him. And I don't know. I thought that at the end there with the ball bat, with Sting and Darby, okay, I guess we're gonna get 6-man here with those guys, which will be compelling. But I don't really know that I want to see CM Punk roll through MJF right now. I feel like
absolutely not.
Right? Like, an MJF he's done such a good job building up so many other talents here recently. Like, I would really be upset if this kind of leads to Punk getting one over on MJF in the end,
CM Punk is somebody that people were excited about because he left at the prime of his career, many would say, was gone for a very long time, took a very public stance about that. But the times have changed, and he came back to tremendous success, a tremendous audience response, largely around his hometown. They circled back to Chicago a million times, it felt like that for that. Will he be able to prove himself again in terms of what he once was, or is he just like a shadow of his former self? I'm right now leaning into the idea that maybe a solid mid-carder, but I wouldn't put him at the top of my card right now.
Samantha here saying CM Punk has had his time. He's more nostalgia now. Man, oof. That's a cold dose right there,
It is, Samantha, and I don't necessarily 100% agree with that, but I definitely think that Punk appears to have lost a step. I think that he certainly can still go at a rate that many people never could. But at the same time, when you're looking at a top-notch roster like AEW has, and a company that's always prided itself on outperforming the competition, specifically with in-ring work, he might need to knock off some ring rust, give him a program that gets him back into that position. I think that he came in very high on the card, and we might have seen, I'm sure that Tony Khan's going to give him more, but do we want that?
I wonder, because so Rolo 555 here saying truth is CM Punk doesn't fit in AEW. He would have been better off in WWE as the against the establishment character. And I think that, because we're going to talk here about Kevin Owens just a little bit, really interesting right now. That guy is going to get it sounds like he's already got a really great deal. It seems like there's going to be a certain level of respect for him there. That he's going to be treated a certain kind of way. Didn't want to roll the dice here and go over to this new company, especially, you know, he's got kids. CM Punk does not have kids, so that's a different situation. But it does kind of make you think, like seeing Punk in this environment, having to kind of hang with these, you know, very hungry young talent like MJF that'll really just go at you. I don't know. You know, would CM Punk have been better off coming to WWE? Would he have been happier kind of working in that space right now? I don't know. That's an interesting question.
I don't think he would have been happier. I think he would have been, I think we would have seen the response that he got probably tripled, possibly, because it's a homecoming for him.
Yeah.
And then I think that he would have gotten a potentially more prestigious type of I don't know. I think that he would have just fit in there better, possibly. I think that AEW, all the concerns we've had about him stepping on people and holding them down, I think that there's plenty of people, it appears, in the company who are like, I'm just not going to let that happen. If I have to work circles around you, I will do that. And MJF is doing exactly that.
Well, and you know, I don't want to poo-poo too much on the CM Punk parade, because I think that he really has brought an authentic realism back to the business in general, right? Like, I think that Punk has been good for creative in WWE since his return, even if there's been some issues with his own personal creative. So anyway, lastly here, coming out of AEW Winter is Coming, before we're going to talk about Kevin Owens and his new WWE contract, last night's Winter is Coming saw a new Malachi Black vignette tease the debut of a new House of Black member. Now, Body Slam is reporting it's believed that Brody King is going to be the new member. He reportedly signed with AEW almost immediately after Ring of Honor announced they were going on hiatus after April 2022. King was then told over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend the signing was a done deal. He and Black are the current PWG World Tag Team Champions. They are billed as the Kings of the Black. Great get. I'm stoked about this, Paul. I think this would be great.
I think that, you know, they certainly hinted at this fact last night when the closing segment of that vignette was, now you'll be so much more than a king, right? So that was the closing words. And in terms of what this sees for Malachi Black, what it might see for Brody King, I think that they are, if they are teamed together and allowed to team, I think that they would make a perfect fit into that tag team division right now. It would give honestly, some new life to what is already an oversaturated tag team division, but a division that has felt a little stale of late. So that would certainly give that. And we know that AEW likes that sort of outsider credibility, and the fact that these two hold a major set of tag team titles outside the company bodes very well for them.
I just think it's cool. Like, I like Brody a lot. Like, I see Brody with Black, you know, Black sitting there, Brody standing behind him, a good visual with that entrance. Brody's just a really good wrestler, just a really smart mind. Like, creatively, he just thinks in a way that a lot of wrestlers don't. So a great get. I hope this is all true. And I do wonder, like you mentioned, you'll be more than a king. I wonder if he changes his name, if only because of how much they do with Brody Lee. I wonder if they ask him to maybe come up with something different, you know? Yeah. Sorry.
That me?
No, that was me. I have a spam caller that is taking over my Skype right now. I have no idea how.
Oh my gosh, y'all. It's not just me. I'm so happy. Block that person.
I don't even have Skype open right now. I have no idea how I'm getting a spam call from Skype.
Okay, Nick, now you know how it is that I get all these random things, because I don't even have that stuff open. And it's just so random. I would not doubt at all if Brody King's name is changed. Brody King's name, I'll give you a moment to blush and like cover your face. You know, there's no way that they're going to bring in Brody King as Brody King. That's just a given. Brody Lee is, you know, they've elevated him to a point of being a saint within that company, which is an unusual thing for me to watch in general, but it's happened. And he's such a beloved figure by AEW and everyone there. There's not a chance in hell that they're going to have another Brody on the roster.
And Eddie Zamara here, by the way, saying the Briscoes and Jonathan Gresham are going to go to AEW. They were like next week. I think they're going to be in North Carolina, if I got it right, or if I heard it correctly. And Tony Khan was
Greensboro, like South Carolina, I thought.
Okay, maybe. The Carolinas.
They're definitely in the Carolinas.
Tony Khan was teasing a big match announcement for next week's show. And I was like, oh, well, it's going to be FTR Briscoes. Like that was my thought because of like what they had just done at the ROH Final Battle pay-per-view. The fact is 6-man, okay, but a little instance of me, because they always try to meet your expectations, right? I was just a little swerved by that one. That's all.
That's something that's going to be very fun and interesting to watch. We are certainly going to be paying a great deal of attention to where a lot of this Ring of Honor talent winds up, and it looks very strongly like a good deal of it might end up in AEW. Again, an oversaturated company, but at the same time, if we get to start to see some fantastic matches, then who knows? It could all work out in the end.
All right, well, let's talk about Kevin Owens here a little bit. The Observer saying he signed a 3-year deal. It's going to keep him from WWE, or keep him with WWE for the foreseeable future. He did not get a no-cut clause in his contract, so just like everybody else, this is,
it's when we want to ditch you, but still.
Exactly. But it's good. It's a good money deal, believed to be $2 to $3 million. He's believed it was signed
per year. Is that not right?
Yeah, per year. So
yeah.
So between $6 and $9 million here, if it's minimum 3 years. The belief is that there was more money than Owens would have been making in AEW. Some people within AEW are making that money, but not a lot. Now, Pat Lepard did an interview with Kevin Owens in French. And here, I know. So here is a translation of what Kevin said regarding his contract to Pat. He said, "I'll just say that my contract still ends on January 31st, but not 2022. I will still be in WWE for several years. The decision was pretty easy because it was the best thing for my family, really. When it comes to that, it's always a pretty easy decision to make. WWE has been my home for 7 years. I have a sense of belonging. Basically, I spent my entire career here. When you look at all the wrestling companies I've wrestled for in WWE, that's where I've been the longest. That's where I need to be for the next few years. That's how I felt, and that's the decision I made." So adults making adult decisions. You got to love it. Got to love it.
You know what? I read this, and it came to my mind that as much as people are clamoring to watch competitors jump ship from WWE and come to AEW, and I think that a lot of people probably want that. Like a lot of competitors probably want that. There are other people like Kevin Owens who are saying, you know what? After everybody goes somewhere else, I'm going to have a really great opportunity here. Or if you are somebody that they, at this point, want to renegotiate with, you can work for that higher price point and presumably have it written into your contract that you get a certain level of success. You know what I mean? It's like probably a given that we've already seen him elevated back into the world title picture at this juncture. And he is somebody from WWE's perspective who makes a very easy world championship competitor because all they have to do is heat him up for like a month to 6 weeks. And he's got that credibility. You know, people love him. He is easy to work with. He is easy to book for.
Yeah, agreed. Spaceman 584 saying he get that bag. AEW won't be paying that. Truth. MCAS, good for KO. Would have loved him in AEW. Cool as he did what's best for his family. And I'll throw up Eddie Zam, Harry 99. Everyone bashes Kevin Owens resigning with WWE and not going to AEW. But at the end of the day, he made that decision, not us. He knows what's best for him. And I cleaned that up a little bit for you, Eddie. Anyway.
But you know what? Even if there was like it financially may not have been for the best for him, you know, I believe Kevin Owens is a smart enough individual that he very possibly recognizes the same thing that we've been saying for a while here. And that is that there's only so much space in AEW. So, you know, watching people come in, get like a quick, you know, a burst of attention, and then where do they go? Where's a Jay Lethal? Where do these people go? And, you know, they're not being seen right now. So why would he necessarily want to go there and be underutilized in AEW versus being underutilized where he already knows everything?
All right. Well, we're going to talk about a legendary manager here real fast, but we'll show love here for the manager in the house here today as Waffle House tweeting PDM Pollo Del Mar with an exclamation mark.
Thank you, Waffle House. Thank you. And
Waffle
you have delicious, delicious hash browns.
So, legendary pro wrestling manager, the Jive Soul brother Slick, made his first wrestling appearance in years at an ISPW event in New Jersey this past weekend. There, Slick confronted the son of WWE Hall of Famer Nikolai Volkov, Andy Weinberg, who has been working as a heel manager there at the promotion. I just think it's great that Slick is out doing his thing. That's just nice to hear, you know?
Did Slick not at one point in time manage Andy's father, Nikolai Volkov? I'm pretty sure. Yes.
That's why they did the bit. I think that's why they did the bit, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. In the realm of legendary professional wrestling managers, I was never a huge Slick fan. However, I do love the fact that, there's a conversation about pro wrestling managers in this day and age when it's practically a forgotten art form. And I appreciate the fact that Nikolai Volkov's son is active in the world of professional wrestling too. I didn't even know that, and I'll have to check it out.
All right. Well, Paul, thank you for joining me at Top Show Talk All the News
Always.
today. Thank you to everybody for jumping in the comments section here. We got a little bit more to go as we're going to talk in the we're going to dive into the mailbag here in just a second. Actually, I don't have anybody else to think. Let's just dive in the mailbag. So today's mailbag question comes from the following anecdote. It's based out of the following anecdote. So Pro Wrestling Tees announced yesterday that for the first time since debuting with AEW on August 20th, CM Punk is no longer the top-selling T-shirt of the week on their website, as Hook and his new T-shirt have taken the #1 spot. Send me Hook, said CM Punk, and he came and he knocked him off the top spot there. What do you think about this little note, Paul?
I think that it's very interesting. Who knew that there were so many hookers out there to just show up and buy out all of Hook's T-shirts? Good for you, hookers. Good for you.
Yeah, all them hookers out there. But for real, what'd you think of Hook's day? I was blown away. I thought he was.
I actually have not watched it, so I have not seen. I have not seen Hook's debut.
That's unfortunate.
So I've heard nothing but amazing things about it though. And was it you that tweeted out Hook is what Mysterio Jr.'s kid was supposed to turn around? Dominic? No,
that wasn't me.
So okay. I thought it might have been you, but I wasn't sure. Somebody tweeted out Hook is what Dominic Mysterio was supposed to be and has failed to be.
So man, they're different, right? Like you want Ray's kid to be a flyer. Taz's kid should be a shooter. That's what Hook is. The guy floats in the ring. I mean, he looks like a polished NCAA. Like he looks like a cool version of the Diamond Mine, with the Action Bronson music and all that type of stuff.
I will definitely go check it out. I'm remiss. I've fallen behind in terms of some of my television viewing. I will tell you without a doubt that my television viewing of wrestling is significantly decreased from what it was a few months ago, in large part because I'm so booked and blessed.
Well, MCAS Pierce saying, well, we're all out here, believe me, where my hooker's at. Eddie agreeing Hook's going to be a big star. And I asked everybody out there, who should be the man to take the AEW World title off of Hangman Page? CM Punk, MJF, or Hook, or somebody else. A little over 200 votes. 59% say MJF, 18% CM Punk, 13.8 Hook, so really not that far off. And then 9.2 for somebody else. MJF running away with it here. I'm guessing the eventual MJF Adam Page collision is probably going to get a lot of people really excited.
I think that, I voted for MJF. I think that of the people that they've invested in, if they want to continue building new stars at this point in time, to be frank, that Dynamite Diamond Ring means nothing because nobody else has won it. They don't ever do anything with it except use it as a weapon. It's a once a year shtick. That doesn't mean anything to me. But MJF claiming the AEW World Championship, and setting up, he and Paige is still very young, even though I don't think we think of him as being young like MJF because it's not the focal point of conversation all the time. Sure. But this is a rivalry that could, span over many years. It could be a Flair, Barry Windham type of situation where it comes back, circles back all the time, as we were talking about Daniel Bryan circling back as well. I'm not particularly interested in one of the incoming WWE talents taking that position. I did somebody did mention Miro, and I wouldn't mind at all seeing Miro elevated into that role, really given a strong like reheat of his character and put into that role for even a brief period of time. I feel like he deserves that to some degree.
I thought a couple people wrote in for Miro here. We also had a write-in for Danhausen from the Buscat, by the way. Great write-in.
I saw Danhausen.
Yeah, we had an Okada write-in here as well. And then Aleister Black, certainly, I think is always going to be a viable contender. But, for me, it's interesting that CM Punk is so equal to Hook, right? And MJF is just so much further ahead. I don't know what else there is to take from it. But we also have Spaceman 584 booked and blessed. Long live Hookers.
Oh man, Adam Cole is somebody that I would love to see in that conversation. I would love to see Adam Cole in that conversation.
Yeah, I like Adam Cole, right? It's interesting because he hasn't had the kind of Bryan Danielson CM Punk solo. He just came back and he was like, hey, I just get to hang out with my friends, right? Like that seems to be more important than him at the moment.
And I'll be very, very honest. I think that has longer legs than what we're seeing for Danielson and Punk, because the problem with coming into that huge high profile position is eventually the bottom has to fall out of that. Adam Cole has come in. He's become an integral part, like a very fun to watch part of the company. He came in being considered as credible as anybody else who's come into this company. And he's not being shoved down our throats in a way that eventually fans will turn on.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I agree with you. I'm less worried about Danielson than Punk, just because Punk just seems really adrift. Danielson seems to be wanting to sink his teeth in and tell some stories right now. I haven't, even with the MJF stuff. It's like Punk's like, well, this is what you guys want, so I'm just going to do it. Like, there's not a passion there,
Yeah, I mean, that's the question. Like, is he really as passionate as he's always said he is? Or, is that passion sort of adrift? Or what is the passion? Is the passion just coming in and working with young people and putting them over or building them up or whatever the situation is that he said repeatedly? I think that there's an argument that maybe he just wants to come in and get to do cool things like team with Sting.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know.
And as long as it keeps him out of the world title picture, I'm A-okay with it.
All right, everybody. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of the show today. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We got one more to go before I go off on vacation. The whole show is going to go on vacation. So I'll be back tomorrow with TK Trinidad. And then, Monday through Friday next week, we're going to be airing some of our biggest interviews from 2021. I'll be doing little bumpers up top to kind of give you a little backstage insight into the...
I didn't even know about this.
Yeah.
I've been future endeavored for like 2 weeks, and I didn't even know, y'all. Man, between this and the QWI awards, there's no fairness in the world. There's nothing is fair, Nick.
Hey, well, I'm gonna tell everybody out there to go support you, Paul, and your many other ventures, Twitch, where you could go support Paul and he makes money that way. So when you're not supporting us, Paul, here, double down next week and go double support Paul over there. How's that?
Thank you.
Problem solved. I'm a problem solver.
I just love being here with you, Nick. I love talking about pro wrestling with our audience. I really appreciate all, as we're coming towards the end of the year, I've really appreciated all the ample opportunities that I've been given by Wrestling Inc. and you and Raj, and the audience that we have got here is fairly fantastic. I say fairly because I know a few of them individually, and I don't think they're so fantastic, but in general, our audience is brilliant, and I love it. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, absolutely, everybody. Thank you all so much. Support the Wrestling podcast as well. It's at night like this show, or it's not like this show. That show's at night, different voices, right? That's the same thing, right? More punditine talking wrestling. That's on all your podcast platforms and supportwrestlinginc.com on all the socials. Anything else you want to put over here, Paul, before we wrap it up today?
No, as you mentioned, I am on Twitch quite often, twitch.tv/Pollo Del Mar. You can follow me on Twitter, the Glamazon PDM. I almost exclusively talk about pro wrestling there. It's very bizarre. Quite a change over the last year and a half. And otherwise, I will be this Saturday. I'm on Twitch. We are Twitch streaming a a fundraising show, like a tribute show for Brooke Havoc. A lot of people know that Brooke Havoc, a young professional wrestler who is training at AEW, was injured a couple months ago at the Young Lions Cup, blew out her knee. So we're doing a tribute show, benefit show for her this weekend. I will be streaming it, I believe, beginning at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on twitch.tv/Pollo Del Mar. So check that out, please.
Awesome, everybody. I'm at Nick_Houseman over on Twitter. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.